The room went dead silent. No forks, no glasses, no breath. For the first time in 3 years, Tae-yang saw me without fear. Then I gripped the table. For 1 second, everyone understood what was coming. Tae-yang moved too late. Porcelain shattered. Wine spilled red across the linen, and in the silence after the crash, I said the only sentence that still mattered. I want a divorce.
My lips were still hovering an inch from his cheek when he turned his face away. Again. That made 99. I know because I counted every single one. 99 mornings. 99 attempts. 99 times my mouth touched nothing but air while my husband adjusted his collar like my love was something that might stain him. Tae-yang Cho did not even look at me. "You'll smudge my shirt," he said, eyes still on his phone. I smiled because that was what I had trained myself to do. Smile softly. Swallow quickly. Make pain small enough not to disturb the room. "Right," I whispered. "Wouldn't want that." 3 years of marriage had taught me how to disappear while still standing in front of him. 3 years of dinners with 2 full feet between our plates because he said my perfume distracted him. 3 years of sleeping in a room down the hall because he said restlessness kept him awake. 3 years of folded hands, lowered expectations, and carefully measured hope. I told myself he was distant because he was powerful. I told myself he avoided affection because he was controlled. I told myself some men loved quietly. Then I saw him drink from her cup. Not a clean cup. Not a fresh cup. Her cup. Soo Jin Park's cup. His accountant. The pink lipstick print was still on the rim when he lifted it to his mouth. And Tae-yang Cho, the man who had turned away from my kisses 99 times, drank from it like sharing her mouth was the easiest thing in the world. I stood in his office doorway, holding a folder his secretary had forgotten. I did not scream. I did not cry. I did not step forward and demand an explanation. Something colder happened. I went still. The kind of stillness that comes when a woman finally stops asking what she did wrong and starts calculating what she is owed. I noticed everything. The relaxed line of his shoulders around her, the way she stood too close to his desk, the way he did not flinch when her fingers brushed the saucer, the way comfort sat between them like something practiced. That was what broke me, not the cup, the routine. This was not one careless moment. This was a habit. This was familiarity. This was months of softness given to another woman while I had been counting rejected kisses in silence. I closed the folder. I turned around. And before the elevator reached the lobby, I had already made 3 calls. That is where this story begins. Not with the divorce papers. Not with the table. Not with the empire falling apart. With a cup. But to understand why that cup ended a marriage, you need to understand how long I let Tae-yang Cho make me feel like love was something I had to earn. My name is Amara Whitfield. When I met Tae-yang, I was 26 years old and waiting tables at a restaurant 3 blocks from a warehouse everyone in the neighborhood pretended not to notice. He walked in wearing a black suit that cost more than my rent, followed by 4 men who did not sit so much as claim positions. They watched exits. They watched hands. They watched everything. He ordered black coffee and said almost nothing for 40 minutes. I liked his silence then. I thought it meant depth. I did not know yet that silence could be a locked door. He came back the next day, then the next. On the 5th day, he left his number folded under a $50 bill. I called him that night from my tiny apartment, pacing barefoot across the floor, trying not to sound too happy when he answered. What almost nobody knew was that I was not just a waitress. Whitfield was not just a last name. My grandmother had built one of the most powerful private investment networks in the country from nothing but discipline, instinct, and refusal. Shipping. Real estate. Private capital. Quiet ownership hidden behind clean paperwork and older men who never realized the woman in the room understood the room better than they did. I inherited more than her money. I inherited her rule. Never let a man love your wealth before he has earned the right to know it exists. So I did not tell Tae-yang. Not when he started courting me. Not when he proposed 6 months later. Not when I became Mrs. Cho. I wanted to be chosen before I was valued. I wanted one person to see me without the empire behind me. I wanted love that did not come with negotiations, strategy, or calculation. I thought Tae-yang loved the woman underneath the name. I did not understand that he only respected what he feared, and because he thought I had nothing, he slowly treated me like nothing. Our wedding was small, controlled, and coldly elegant. His men lined the back wall in black suits. His mother sat in the front row looking at me like I had stepped onto a floor I had no right to touch. But Tae-yang looked at me that day like I mattered. So I believed the look. That was my first mistake. My mother called me that morning and asked one question. "Does he know who you really are, baby?" I laughed it off. "Not yet," I said. "I want him to love me first." There was a long pause. Then she said, "Just don't forget who you are while waiting for him to prove who he is." I did not understand that warning until 3 years later, standing outside his office, watching another woman's lipstick disappear against porcelain. The coldness did not come all at once. It never does. First, he would not share food. Then he would not share a glass. Then separate bathrooms. Then separate cars to the same events. Then separate bedrooms because he said my breathing changed when I dreamed, and he needed quiet. Every boundary sounded reasonable when spoken in his voice. That was Tae-yang's gift. He could make cruelty sound like discipline. He could make rejection sound like preference. He could make a wife feel childish for wanting to be touched. At first, I fought softly. I reached for his hand at dinners. He moved it away. I kissed his shoulder in the hallway. He stiffened. I waited for him at night. He stopped coming upstairs before midnight. And every morning, I tried again. Because foolish hope is patient in a way wisdom never would be. 1, 5, 12, 27, 50, 90. I stopped saying the number out loud after 50 because hearing it made it too real. But I never stopped counting. The 99th rejection came the morning everything ended. "You'll smudge my shirt." That was what he gave me after 3 years. A shirt mattered more than my mouth. By then, there had already been signs. A gold earring in his car that was not mine. A late meeting that smelled like perfume when he came home. The way Soo-jin Park knew his coffee order better than I knew his mood. The way his voice softened around her by half a tone. I noticed. Then I doubted myself because Tae-yang had trained me to. A woman can survive many things, but the slow murder of her own instinct is one of the most dangerous. Every time I asked a question, he answered with silence sharp enough to cut. Every time I noticed something, he made me feel foolish for noticing. So I became careful. And while he thought careful meant weak, I was becoming something else. I was watching. 2 years into the marriage, Tae-yang's organization nearly collapsed. A shipping route failed. A rival family intercepted one of his largest transfers. His own lieutenants began whispering that Cho blood was not enough to keep the empire standing. He came home pale one night, hands shaking around a glass of water he would not let me refill. "I have it handled," he said. He did not, so I handled it. I made calls before dawn. Quiet calls. Expensive calls. Calls to people who still answered when they heard the Whitfield name. By morning, his problem had disappeared. The shipment reappeared. The rival backed off. The route reopened. Tae-yang walked into breakfast looking relieved and told me his instincts had saved the organization. I sat across from him, 40 inches away, and said nothing. Because I loved him. Because some part of me still believed if I saved him enough times, he would eventually notice the woman doing the saving. He never did. He took every miracle as proof of his own power. And I let him. That was my second mistake. But my grandmother used to say, every mistake teaches you where to place the knife when it is time to cut free. So when I saw that cup, I did not fall apart. I became my grandmother's granddaughter. At 11:47 on a Tuesday morning, Tae-yang Cho drank from Soo-jin Park's cup. At 11:52, I was in the elevator. At 11:59, I called the restaurant where Tae-yang and I had first exchanged numbers. "Private dining room," I said. "Tonight. Full leadership team. Formal setting." The manager recognized my voice. "Not as Mrs. Cho, as Amara Whitfield." "Yes, ma'am," he said immediately. Then I called Tae-yang's assistant. "Tell everyone it's a thank you dinner for closing the bank account." "Everyone, Mrs. Cho, everyone," I said. "Especially Miss Park." That evening, they all came. Tae-yang sat at the head of the table like a king who had no idea the throne had already been sold beneath him. Soo-jin sat 3 seats down, wearing a black dress too elegant for an accountant and a guilty confidence she was not skilled enough to hide. I sat across from my husband and watched him avoid my water glass. The waiter set it near his plate by accident. Tae-yang moved it away with 2 fingers, like touching something I had touched might contaminate him. Then Soo-jin leaned toward him and murmured something near his ear. He smiled, not politely, not professionally, softly. A sound inside me closed, not broke, closed. When the entrees were done, I stood. The room went quiet because I had never stood first at one of Tae-yang's dinners. I turned to the waiter. "Bring me 1 large empty bowl, please." Tae-yang's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. "Amara," he said quietly. "What are you doing?" I looked at Soo-jin, teaching everyone about shared boundaries. The waiter returned with the bowl, confused but obedient. I placed it in the center of the table. "Everyone scrape your leftovers into it." No one moved. I smiled. "Come on. My husband is very careful about what he shares, so let's make this simple. If food, cups, mouths, and germs suddenly don't matter anymore, we should all be comfortable sharing, shouldn't we?" Soo-jin's face changed first. Good. She understood before he did. "Mrs. Cho," she said, voice thin. "I don't understand." "Yes, you do." Tae-yang's eyes sharpened. Enough. I looked at him then, really looked. The man I had loved, the man I had protected, the man who had built a palace from my silence and called himself king inside it. "At exactly 11:47 this morning," I said, "you drank from her cup. Pink lipstick on the rim, door half open, shoulders relaxed, no flinch, no disgust, no careful little speech about germs. The room died, not quiet, dead. No forks, no glasses, no breath." Soo-jin stared at the tablecloth. Tae-yang's jaw worked once, twice. Nothing came out. That was the first time in 3 years I saw him without control. "You followed me?" he said finally. "No, I saw you. That is not what you think it is." I laughed once, softly. It was the cleanest sound I had made in years. "You rejected my kiss 99 times, Tae-yang. 99. Then you drank from her cup like my mouth was the only thing you were afraid of." One of his lieutenants, Han, shifted in his chair. Tae-yang snapped his head toward him. "Don't." Han looked down, then back up. "With respect, boss," he said quietly. "Everyone has noticed." Soo-jin's hand flew to her collarbone. That was when the shame reached her, not when she betrayed me. When witnesses appeared. I turned the bowl toward her. "Scrape your plate, Soo-jin." Her eyes widened. "What?" "If sharing is suddenly acceptable, start." "Amara," Tae-yang warned. "No," I said. 1 word. Flat. Final. His hand shot under the table and closed around my wrist. Hard. The old me would have gone still for the wrong reason. The old me would have sat down. The old me would have protected his image at the expense of my own dignity. Instead, I looked at his hand. Then I looked at every man at that table. Do you all see this? No one moved. No one defended him. That silence was an answer. I pulled my wrist free slowly. "You embarrassed yourself 3 years ago," I said. "I'm just finally letting the room catch up." Then I picked up my water glass, the one he would not touch, would not share, would not lift in a toast beside mine, and poured it down the center of the white tablecloth. It spread like truth. Then I gripped the edge of the table. For 1 second, every person in that room understood exactly what was about to happen. Tae-yang lunged forward. "Amara, don't I flipped it." Porcelain shattered against marble. Wine spilled red across white linen. Silverware screamed across the floor. Soo-jin stumbled backward. Someone cursed. Someone else stood too fast and knocked over a chair. And in the ringing silence after the crash, I said the only sentence that still mattered. "I want a divorce." Tae-yang stared at me like I had spoken a language he did not believe women knew. Then he laughed. A short, ugly sound. "Over a cup?" "No," I said. "Over 99 rejected kisses. Over 3 years of making me feel diseased for wanting my husband. Over every room you made me shrink in while giving another woman the ease you denied me. The cup was just the receipt. You're emotional. I'm awake. You'll leave with nothing." There he was. The real man. Not wounded. Not sorry. threatened. The house, he said, standing now, voice rising. The cars, the accounts. Every piece of security you enjoy exists because of me. I almost smiled. Almost. You still don't know who you married. His expression flickered. Good. Let him feel the first tremor. His lawyer had come to dinner because men like Tae-yang never entered rooms unprotected. Within an hour, he drafted separation terms on a tablet, smug as if he were watching me walk willingly into poverty. Separate property. No claim to Cho assets. Immediate vacating of the marital residence. No financial support. Tae-yang slid the tablet toward me. Sign it. I did. Without blinking, his mouth tightened. He had expected tears. Begging. Negotiation. He got my signature. You'll regret this by morning, he said. I returned the tablet. No, I said. By morning, you will. He did not know that every time I had saved his organization, I had also studied it. He did not know I had bought the debt attached to 3 of his warehouses under shell companies he never bothered to trace. He did not know 2 of his supply routes were operating on credit lines guaranteed by Whitfield Capital. He did not know the mansion he called his was held by a trust my grandmother created before Tae-yang ever learned how to knot a tie. He did not know because he had never asked one serious question about the woman he married. He thought I was quiet because I had nothing to say. I was quiet because I was counting. The next morning, I packed 2 suitcases. His mother stood in the doorway, arms crossed, face twisted with the same contempt she had worn on my wedding day. Ungrateful, she spat. 3 years in this family and you gave my son nothing. No child, no loyalty, no humility. I folded my final dress into the suitcase. Then I looked at her. I gave him an empire, I said. He was too arrogant to notice whose hands were holding it up. She scoffed. You? A waitress? I zipped the suitcase. That word will embarrass you soon. Grace, the housekeeper, caught me near the front door. She was the only person in that house who had ever looked at me like a human being when no one important was watching. Mrs. Cho, she whispered, eyes wet. Will you be all right? I squeezed her hand. I'm about to be more all right than I've been in 3 years. Outside, a black car waited. Not Tae-yang's. Mine. My brother Malik opened the back door himself. He looked at my suitcase, then at my face. Is it done? It's done. He smiled like a storm had finally been given permission to arrive. Then, welcome home, chairwoman. By noon, every line of credit attached to Cho operations had been called. By 3, 2 suppliers suspended movement. By 5, a bank Tae-yang trusted froze an account pending review. By midnight, his lieutenants were calling each other instead of him. By morning, Tae-yang Cho's empire had begun to understand what I had known for years. It had not been standing on his strength. It had been standing on mine. 2 weeks later, Tae-yang faced his board. I was not there, but I have seen the footage. Not from cameras. From men who owed my grandmother favors and understood my silence had ended. Tae-yang stood at the head of a long table, jacket buttoned, hair perfect, fury barely contained. You cannot remove me, he said. The finance director did not even flinch. With respect, Mr. Cho, this is not personal. Liquidity has changed. Exposure has changed. Confidence has changed. I am the Cho name, and the Cho name no longer covers payroll. That line did what betrayal never had. It made him small. One by one, the men who had called him boss voted to strip him of operational control. Unanimous. His own chair became unavailable to him. When the vote closed, he gripped the edge of the table. This is Amara. No one answered. So he said it louder. This is my wife. The finance director looked at him carefully. Former wife. That night, he called me 17 times. I answered on the 18th. Not because I missed him, because I wanted to hear the sound of consequence. Amara, he said. His voice was different. No command, no steel, just panic wearing a man's throat. You did this. Did what? Don't do that. Please don't do that. I know it was you. Then you know I could have done it sooner. Silence. Good. Let him sit in that. I can fix us, he said. No, you didn't even let me explain. I gave you 3 years. I was wrong. You were comfortable. I'll change. You already did. Just not for me. His breathing broke. I need to see you. No, Tae-yang, you need capital. You need access. You need the doors reopened. You need the woman you dismissed to save you again. That's not true. It is. And that is why you will never touch my life again. I hung up. 3 months later, I stood in the Whitfield Tower boardroom in a cream suit with my grandmother's ring on my finger and my brothers standing behind me. The room rose when I entered. Not because I was somebody's wife, because I was Amara Whitfield. Malik raised a glass. Chairwoman Whitfield. The title settled over me like something tailored years before I was brave enough to wear it. My brothers applauded. The board applauded. People who understood power did not need me to perform softness to deserve respect. I laughed that day. A real laugh. Full chest. No hallway swallowing it. No husband flinching from it. No one telling me I was too much before breakfast. For the first time in 3 years, I was not tolerated. I was celebrated. That should have been the end. But men like Tae-yang do not understand endings unless they are forced to stand outside the door. 6 months after the divorce, he came to Whitfield Tower. No appointment, no entourage, no power. Just a black suit that no longer looked like armor and a face that had learned what sleeplessness does when money stops solving everything. Security stopped him in the lobby. I watched from the mezzanine above. He did not see me at first. "Tell her I'm here," he said. The guard did not move. "Sir, Chairwoman Whitfield is unavailable." "Chairwoman." He heard it. I watched the word hit him. He looked up then. Our eyes met across the marble lobby. For 1 second, I saw every morning we had ever lived through. Every turned cheek, every untouched glass, every dinner 40 inches apart, every time I had made myself smaller so his ego could feel larger. Then he stepped forward. Amara. Security shifted. I raised one hand. They stopped. He looked relieved. Mistake. I descended the staircase slowly, not because I owed him drama, but because I wanted him to see what patience had built in the woman he underestimated. When I reached the bottom, he looked at me like a starving man looking at a locked kitchen. "You look," his voice caught. "You look good." "I know." His face tightened. The old Amara would have softened that. This one did not. "I lost everything," he said. "No, you lost what was never yours. Please." There it was. The word he had trained me to swallow for 3 years. Now it belonged to him. "Please, Amara. I didn't understand. I didn't know who you were. That is the problem, Tae-yang. You only regret hurting me now because you know what I owned." "No." "Yes. I loved you." "No," I said. "You liked having me nearby. You liked my loyalty. You liked the way I protected your image. You liked that I asked for so little you could pretend giving me crumbs was generosity. But you did not love me." His eyes reddened. "I can earn it back. You had 99 chances before breakfast." He flinched. "Good. Let him count now." Around us, executives slowed. Security watched. A few people recognized him, whispered, remembered the headlines that never quite said my name but said enough. Tae-yang stepped closer. "Amara, I am begging you." I looked at his outstretched hand. Once, I would have taken it just to prove I was forgiving. Now I understood forgiveness did not require returning to the room where you were starved. I stepped back. "No." 1 syllable. "Clean." He stared as if the word had physically struck him. "You're really going to leave me like this?" I smiled then. Not cruelly. Peacefully. "You left me like this every morning. I just learned how to keep walking." Security moved between us. This time, I did not stop them. Tae-yang called my name once more as they escorted him toward the doors. I did not turn around. Not because I could not hear him. Because I finally understood hearing someone does not mean answering them. News traveled, of course. It always does. Tae-yang lost the mansion first. Then the cars. Then the warehouse access. Then the last men who had called fear loyalty. Soo-jin left within a month of his accounts drying up. She walked away quickly, efficiently, the way people do when they were never in love with the person, only the position. His mother blamed everyone except her son. That did not surprise me. Some families would rather curse the smoke than admit they built the fire. I heard he tried to rebuild in another city. Smaller office, Smaller staff, smaller name. I do not wish him endless ruin. I wished him consequence once. Then I let consequence finish the job. These days, my mornings look different. No hallway, no separate room, no rejected kiss waiting before sunrise. I wake in an apartment with glass walls and a skyline that no longer intimidates me because my name sits on enough of it to make fear unnecessary. I make coffee. I drink from whatever cup I choose. And no one flinches. Peace is strange after survival. At first, it feels too quiet. Then one morning, you realize your shoulders are no longer near your ears. Your breath no longer asks permission. Your body no longer braces for rejection before the day has even begun. That is how healing announces itself. Not loudly, just absent of harm. I hired Grace the month after I left. She runs my household now, not because I needed help, but because loyalty deserves a safe place to land. Sometimes she brings me coffee in the morning and says, "You look rested, ma'am. I always smile. I am, and I mean it." People ask whether I regret waiting 3 years. I used to hate that question. It made staying sound like failure. But staying was not weakness. Staying was hope. Staying was me giving a man chance after chance to become the person I thought I saw at the altar. The shame was never mine. The shame belongs to the person who mistook patience for permission. I think about that cup sometimes. The lipstick. The office doorway. The way one small, ordinary object carried 3 years of truth. I used to think it shattered me. Now I know better. It woke me. Some betrayals do not destroy you. They introduce you to the woman you were avoiding becoming. The woman who stops explaining. The woman who stops shrinking. The woman who flips the table, signs the papers, takes back the empire, and never again confuses being tolerated with being loved. If you have ever been the quiet woman at the table, the wife, the girlfriend, the one everyone underestimated, the one they assumed had nothing because you were humble enough not to announce everything you carried, remember this. Some of us are not small because we lack power. Some of us are small because we are waiting, watching, learning. And when the day comes, we do not need to shout to win. We simply remove our hands from the foundation and let the whole false kingdom fall. 99 rejected kisses taught me 100 lessons. The last one saved my life. Never beg at a door that keeps closing in your face. Never call neglect a personality. Never mistake control for love. And never forget who you are while waiting for someone else to see it. I did once. I will never do it again. My name is Amara Whitfield. I flipped the table. I signed the divorce. I took my name back. And since that Tuesday morning, I have never counted another rejected kiss again.